no arm of the security services in the federal government of Nigeria is headed by anybody in the South. It's a clear vote of confidence that you are not trusted enough to be anywhere near. The Minister of Defense is not an Igbo man. The Minister of Internal Affairs is not an Igbo man. The Chief of Defense Staff is not an Igbo man. The Chief of Army Staff, Navy, Air Force, Head of Customs, Immigration, Nigerian Intelligence Agency, State Security Service, Civil Defense, name it.
The agitations in the manner
they have pushed these boys. I don't know if you're speaking, Mark.
Yeah, I think she's trying to put a second question through.
Are you saying something, Mark?
I just asked, are you saying that the manner in which these agitations have come are justifiable? Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that the children have no choice but to say, if we are treated as second-class citizens in this country, we have no choice but to declare self-determination. And I'm saying to the government and the people of Nigeria, why can't we sit together and dialogue? I have said it in my speech in the Yaradua Center the other day.
Because now, in the wake of what we have seen,
I think you're making it impossible, Mark.
So-called Arawa coalition, youth coalition have said, we understand that there's been a statement saying that the Igbos are not going to abandon their 44 trillion naira investment in Nigeria. They're going nowhere. People are saying that why is it that this statement did not come when the agitations for Biafra started initially?
First of all, you ask me questions and you hardly hear my answers before you jump to another question. I think it will help this discussion if you hear me out and allow your viewers to get the rest on the earth of what I'm saying, because we hardly concluded the question you asked before you jumped onto it. And let me remind you that the statement you're just referring to is made by a boy who was suspended by Ohaneze in the last executive of Ohaneze. I read it as you read it. It was not discussed at the National Executive. It has no mandate of any Igbo authority. And he's just flying his own kite. And I have made sure that my publicity department gets in touch with all the media to tell them that he is not an authority to be taken seriously. And I still wonder why they publish him when he says something. Because he's not an official of Ohaneze. So he's not speaking for Ohaneze.
So are you saying then that, you know, this is not part of your own stance? Are you saying, because I just heard you say something about we have a right to self-determination, yet you say that you haven't endorsed the movement for Biafra?
I have said, and I hope that you quote me correctly, that if the present condition in Nigeria persists, self-determination becomes inevitable. But it is in the interest of all of us to build a united Nigeria. And I'm on record for saying this, but you selectively quote me where you prefer. I am sure you've read my speech in the Yaradua Center, where I said that each part of Nigeria can exist on its own and be viable, but none of these small entities will compare to a united Nigeria. Our strength is in our diversity. It is in our capacity to build a strong country out of this. Look at India, what it has built, in spite of its population. Look at China, what it has built, in spite of its population. Look at the United States, what it has built, in spite of. But the structure of their country is responsive to development and national integration. Ours is not. And I'm sure you know so. And that's the kernel of my point. We make self-determination inevitable if we do not revisit the structure of this country.
Well, Chief, you know, part of the comments made, the ones they predicated that comment on, is that they thought that when that sit-at-home was ordered, some thought they had the Southeast governors. They didn't hear from the Southeast governors, who are the elected representatives of the people. They didn't hear from the other leaders of the people. In fact, some said they didn't hear from you when they issued that sit-at-home order. And so to them, it sent a wrong signal. And so if people took that as a general position of both the elected leaders, the social, cultural group leaders, and everyone, they thought that was a wrong message, and so they could have reacted wrongly to that message.
Let me tell you, 3.5 million Igbos died during the Nigerian Biafra conflict. 1.5 died of starvation. A policy heralded by the then Minister of Information as well as the then Minister of Finance as a legitimate policy of war and condemned by international community as genocidal. 12 million people died in warfare. There's nothing wrong with mourning your dead. I expect that everybody in Nigeria should really mourn their dead because people died on both sides. And I called for it in Yaradua Center. And I thought that reminiscence of the waste of lives because the soldiers could not agree on Abure or agreed in Abure and refused to implement the agreement. I thought it was a sober moment to reflect on how to move this country forward. But now, before then, the boys that you accuse of sitting at home, they tried to demonstrate. They were murdered in Asaba. They were murdered in Aba. They were murdered in Port Harcourt. I called for a national inquiry to establish the truth. For 1 month, 21 bodies floated in Ezu River between Anambra and Enugu. Bodies of Masop men. Nobody cared to investigate anything about it. Now these boys say, okay, take the streets even in our home. Let us sit at home and remember our dead. And you expect me to tell them not to mourn? They were exercising a fundamental human right of freedom of expression. There's nothing unlawful about sitting at home. Now, many people went to work. They didn't stop anybody from going to work. I went to the Department of Music in University of Nigeria on that day. And I sang with their choir and prayed with their choir.
Weren't people afraid to go to work because they didn't know what to expect?
If they were afraid, it was unfortunate because as I drove through the streets, I saw nobody policing the streets. I saw nobody stopping anybody. All the government ministries worked. The markets didn't hold because the people decided not to go to the market.
Okay, we'll pick it up from there when we return from this break in just a moment. Don't go away.